I find myself more interested in Ed Davey's questions every week now than Kemi Badenoch's, but you were absolutely right. She tried to land as many punches as possible with regard to the budget and the OBR and the resignation. Does she must know that George Osborne, her predecessor on the front bench of the predecessor on the front bench of the Conservative Party, literally founded the OBR, so it would be completely independent of the Treasury. So the idea that the head of an OBR resigns because the Treasury wants him to resign is, well, either making a complete mockery of the reasons why the OBR was founded by the Conservative Chancellor George Osborne, or indicative of levels of ignorance that are really quite shocking even by her standards.
Yes, but they are also meant to be the watchdog that's meant to be working very, very closely with the Treasury, and it's clear that they lost the confidence of the Treasury and the Chancellor in recent weeks in terms of how this budget has unravelled. And like I say, you played those clips from the OBR chiefs earlier today. There is clear frustration from them about what the Treasury is doing. There was clear frustration from the Prime Minister on Monday about how the OBR had downgraded our productivity, saying, why didn't they do that under the Conservative Party's reign? Why did they choose to...
Starmer was quite snippy about that,
he was
wasn't
clearly really upset about how that...
To be clear, though, nobody thinks that Richard Hughes would have resigned if the OBR hadn't accidentally made the full details.
I think that probably was the final straw that broke the camel's back.
Because it had happened before. Most people probably won't be
we didn't
aware
know
of
that.
this.
I don't think anybody knew that.
But even now, many people won't be aware of this, that a journalist had spotted that you could predict what the URL would be.
It just changed from November to March.
And so it had happened before. So his position became entirely untenable when it emerged that actually this had happened before, and they kind of hadn't locked the door. They hadn't put in place measures to ensure that it wouldn't happen again. I mean, it was not a very edifying PMQs, really, was it?
No, it wasn't. If we can return back to did she mislead, did she not mislead? And that was actually something that I thought that Kemi Badenoch might go in on. Did you mislead the public? Because lots of people do think that the Chancellor has misled the public over that speech that she made on the 4th of November. Now, there was one point in that speech which I did think was potentially the only thing I think that was misleading in that speech, where she's talking about poor productivity. She said it's already clear that the productivity performance is weaker than previously thought. The OBR then came out and said in the budget that had been more than offset by increases in Treasury receipts.
But that's not a contradiction. It's
not. It's misleading.
Yeah.
It's misleading because
it is weaker than previously thought.
Yeah, which is true.
This is the point David Mars was making in front of committee yesterday.
Exactly, but it is not the case.
You can say she should have added further information.
Exactly.
Talk about it being offset. But a lot of people have made very big fools of themselves this week by claiming that productivity had actually improved, when it hadn't. It is worse than previously expected.
The Treasury then, the next week, Treasury officials then briefed us, including myself, that there was a 20 to 30 billion pound black hole in the public finances. That was categorically untrue.
It's just under 20 billion.
But it wasn't. There was never any 20 to 30 billion pound hole in the finances.
No, again, they've raised 26 billion pounds a year in tax.
Because they wanted to do additional things.
Most of which is going to go into what they call fiscal headroom, which has been explained many times. More than 50% of it goes into the buffer against their own fiscal rules, which again, David Mars explained yesterday, the OBR is in favour of. But the difference is
because that is
25% goes on paying for the government's own U-turns on PIP and winter fuel allowance. However hard you work and however generous you are to the Chancellor, about 17% of the new taxes will go on new spending. Most obviously the two-child cap on child benefit, which will cost the Treasury about £2.5 billion. So the claim that it has all been done to increase welfare spending is as ridiculous as the claim that the productivity situation hadn't been changed in any way whatsoever by the inflation promoted increase in the tax take.
But what
does the average punter think, listening to this? To PMQs, not to us.
The average punter thinks that Rachel Reeves did mislead the public, according to polls that have been done this week.
Because that's what people keep telling them.
Well, yeah,
and the same people that told them that are not telling them what David Mars said in the committee yesterday.
No, I can tell.
Which is that let's listen to it again, shall we? The David Mars clip saying categorically that he doesn't believe that she did mislead anybody because productivity has been downgraded.
I don't think it was misleading if I may, my own view, I don't think it was misleading for the Chancellor to say that the fiscal position was very challenging at the beginning of that week.
Fiscal condition very challenging, but not that there was a 20 to 30 billion pound black hole as we were briefed by the Treasury, which is inaccurate and incorrect.
But that wasn't what she said in her budget speech.
No, she didn't say that in her budget speech, but the Treasury did.
Yeah,
the Treasury on behalf of her did.
So, anyway, never mind.
Anyway,
the story this week is
we may
about
disagree
her
on
lying, and now you're saying it wasn't her that said it anyway.
No, I never said that. I never
she
said
is a liar, is what I've been listening to all week.
I don't think that she's a liar.
I'm glad we're in agreement.
I don't think she's a liar, but I do think that Treasury officials, on her behalf, were misleading us about the scale of what we were told to be a 20 to 30 billion pound black hole, which was not the case. Every OBR briefing that they set out week on week was 4 to 5 billion pounds in surplus. There was one where I think it dipped below 5 billion, correct? I'm
not saying anything. I'm getting told off by everybody for interrupting you. So well, I think we're both right.
I think we're both right, but like I say, I was told this by Treasury officials, and I believe that they were misleading to us as journalists in the way that we
I believe that as well. That's not an interruption.
No,
so that's an agreement. I'm going to let you speak uninterrupted now until 1 o'clock.
And I do believe that people feel misled. And you may be right that is because they have been told repeatedly by the Tories over the last week that they feel misled about that. But people, okay. James is raising his hand. Would you like? Is this a point of order?
Not just the Tories, the Daily Mail, the Daily Telegraph, the Daily Express.
Sure. Okay.
Pretty much every outlet under the sun have been telling them this, and not telling them, of course, that the senior bloke at the OBR has now said that she was not misleading anybody. But anyway, enough agreement. Let's find something we can disagree about.
What else can we disagree about? I think we disagree about most things, do we not? Should she resign over this? No. Obviously, I don't believe that. I don't believe that she was misleading, but I do believe that some of her officials were on her behalf. Other things that were mentioned in Prime Minister's questions, that obviously the PM wanting to talk about the good things from the budget, the NHS, the economy, the cost of living down, but obviously many people aren't actually feeling that. So I think there is a sort of questions that we were talking about last week. Is it the case that she not misled? Is it the case that she wasn't able to break her manifesto promise on? You're smiling again.
I'm smiling at all the people saying well done for stopping interrupting you. And now you're prompting me to interrupt you again.
I thought you were reading a rude message. Okay.
No, on the contrary, I'd read those out.
Look, latest polls say that Labour and the Tories both doing terribly well, 19% each. Look at how they felt about the budget. Ipsos says 56% of the public more concerned about Britain's economy following the budget, 11% more reassured, 22% say neither, 52% of the country think they'll be worse off because of the budget, 50% think they and their family will be worse off because of the budget, 8% of people think the budget will leave the country as a whole better off. No matter what you think of whether the OBR, whether they misled them, whether they didn't, people do not like this budget, and it is fair criticism to say why.
What was the last budget that people did like?
It's a good point. Yeah, I'm struggling.
Nigel Lawson in 1985.
Wait, the one that cut loads of taxes.
Yes, that was... Was it 85? I've probably misremembered that as well. 26 minutes after 12 is the time. And so too Ed Davey. Do we know about the Tunbridge Wells story? This is... I mean, if we didn't, we do now. It sounds absolutely hideous. And how's he managed to assume a leadership role on this? Just by dint of...
Oh, the Dems have talked about water quality for years. They've really made it their issue that we need to clean up Britain's waters, and hitting out at those companies which they believe are playing a part in that. And today the target is South East Water, who have left residents in Tunbridge Wells and surrounding areas without running clean water for 5 days. Very much a public health emergency. I thought Keir Starmer's answer on that was pretty weak. We need to do more on this. Well, mate, people are literally relying on bottled water, and GPs and businesses are shutting. So pretty poor there.
And then Brexit, which is it's not going to go away, is it? But have you seen Daniel? I think Ian Dale's water may not be. I think he's okay, is he? I think this came up in an editorial meeting earlier. Ian Dale's water supply is okay.
Thank goodness.
He famously hails from Tunbridge Wells. I can't remember why that was newsworthy not too long ago, but I'm sure that it was. And then the Brexit stuff, which I find enduringly fascinating. Daniel Finkelstein in the Times today suggesting Labour should campaign on rejoining. Not much sign of Keir Starmer doing that anytime soon.
I think
1988 was the budget that I was thinking of.
One of the problems with this government, one of the problems with Keir Starmer, is that he doesn't have the courage of his convictions. And you heard him actually there. The only one thing that he was passionate about was the 2-child benefit cap, and why he felt that the Labour government should be lifting hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty. That's an argument that I think people on his backbenchers want to hear from him far, far more. What do you believe in? What are the things that you like and dislike? And Brexit is one of them where it feels like he's too on the fence on this as an issue. And will the Labour Party change course? I don't think so. I think he's too frightened of reopening that Pandora's box around Brexit. He privately probably totally agrees with his economic advisor that it would be a great thing to do.
And with John Major and with
but I don't think he's politically brave enough, or I don't think he's politically strong enough to be able to make that argument, especially when you're on 20% in the polls.
I think you're probably right. I mean, does there come a point when he's got nothing to lose, though?
Possibly. He's got a lot to lose, though, hasn't he? He's Prime Minister. He's got everything to lose, right?
As the election looms ever closer, and if his situation doesn't improve in the polls, then they break glass. I still don't think so.
No, I don't think it's got that.
Because it's him. It's not a question of whether we think he should or not. It's a question of whether this politician will.
No, and I don't think he's willing to nail his colours to the mast. There's also a question about how long do we wait between referendums, and how long is it okay to let the people's vote decide and set an agenda of travel before you change your mind on it. And obviously we talk about Scotland and independence in the same vein, right? And people say it should be a generation before we have another vote like that. How long is a generation? 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 50? And there will be many people that argue that we have not had a generation since either the Scottish or Brexit referendum in order to let that issue settle. There, however, will be a lot of people making that argument that if you do want that economic growth that you so desire and you have made your government completely around, then why not pull that emergency lever? I don't think he'll do it.
No, I don't either. Matt earned his right to a second bite of the cherry by predicting that Ed Davey would ask about Tunbridge Wells, and he is telling us both that it's largely down to the local MP Mike Martin in Tunbridge Wells, who has stepped up and got considerably angrier than most MPs. So good on him. Is there anything, this isn't really a question inside either of our fields, but is there anything the government can do in these sort of situations? They can punish the water company later, perhaps, but they can't sort of start fixing water supplies or
it can obviously yell at them behind closed doors to get a move on. Ed Davey suggested that they send the army in to help.
Yeah.
Whether that's something that can actually help.
Great line for opposition.
It's a great line.
Send the army in. What are they going to do? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Just send them in. I'm sure they can help.
Yeah.
It's a bit like when they demand Parliament be recalled at every single opportunity. Not quite sure why, but we must debate it in Parliament because it's our democratic right to do so.